Hello everyone, and welcome to the sixth session of this lecture series entitled Excel in Structural Engineering. In the previous session, we defined all of our output parameters and we inserted their formulas into our Excel template. Today, we will use conditional formatting to add colors to specified cells based on their content in order to indicate to the user whether the section is adequate or not. I will first show all tabs and commands ribbon on top. And I want to change this empty space here between these cells, so I'm going to select all cells in my Excel sheet and I'm going to change their alignment to middle. There you go. Now if you look at them, they look nicer. And now I'm going to start at cell D6. D6 represents the diameter of bar at the layer farthest from the neutral axis. I would like to indicate to the user, in case he or she enters a diameter of bar for the layer farthest from the neutral axis that is smaller than the diameter of bar in the layer on top of it, that this is not the most efficient use of steel reinforcement in the cross-section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to cell D6 here. Then I'm going to go to conditional formatting. It might look difficult at the beginning, but once you get a grasp of it, it's actually very straightforward. It's just like a graphical if statement. So we're going to go here from conditional formatting to new rule. Then I'm going to use a formula to determine which cells to format. And I'm going to specify my condition here. I'm going to tell Excel if this destination, which is DBB, is smaller than DBT, then show a red color to the user, indicating that this is not the most efficient use of steel reinforcement. So I'm going to go here to fill, and I'm going to add here a red color. Click OK, another OK, and we're done for that part. It's very straightforward. So let's try it here. Let's say that the user inputs diameter of bar 16 for the layer farthest from the neutral axis, and then diameter of bar 20 millimeter for the layer on top of it. Immediately the Excel template will show a red color indicating to the user that this is not the most efficient. To be honest, it is not indication that this is not the most efficient. It's just a red color that shows the user that, pay attention, you should revise the numbers that you have inserted here. I will do the same thing for NOBB and NOBT. NOBB here represents the number of bars in the layer farthest from the neutral axis, and NOBT is the number of bars in the layer on top of it. So I want to indicate to the user that the number of bars in the layer farthest from the neutral axis should be larger or equal to the number of bars in the layer on top of it. But the number of bars in the layer on top of it here, the second layer, should not be greater than the number of bars in the layer farthest from the neutral axis. The way we do this is we go to D8, conditional formatting, new rule, and I'm going to use a formula to determine which cell to be formatted. And here I'm going to specify my condition again. I'm going to tell the Excel template that if D8 here is smaller than D9, then show the user a red color. Let's do it here again. Let's say that the user inserted 2 bars in the layer farthest from the neutral axis and then 6 bars in the layer on top of it. Excel will indicate with a red color that the user needs to revise his or her numbers. Let's fix these numbers and see if the color goes away. Let's say that this here is 20, this here is 18, this here is 4, and this here is 2. You can see that the Excel template fixes the colors and brings them back to their normal status. Next, I'm going to go to the output parameter section here, and I would like to indicate to the user, in the case that B minimum is greater than the actual width of the beam, that there is a problem leading to the section to become inadequate. So I'm going to go to this cell here, which is J11, and I'm going to go to conditional formatting again, a new rule, use a formula, and I'm going to state my condition here. My condition will be straightforward. If J11, which is B minimum, is greater than D2, which is B, I want you to pay attention here. You can use the cell destination and you can use the variable name as well. So we can use J11 here for this cell, or we can simply write B minimum, because we have already assigned the name B minimum to this cell here, which is one of the output parameters. So we can say here, I'm gonna mix them together. So I'm gonna say here that J11, if J11 is greater than, and I'm not gonna use the destination on this side, I'm just gonna tell him if J11 is greater than B, because I have already assigned the name B to this input parameter destination here. In this case, if J11, which is B minimum according to the ACI code, is greater than B, then I want the Excel template to show a red color. Okay and okay. Let's try it. Let's say that this here is 300. And let's say we have 6 bars. You can see that B minimum according to the ACI code is greater than B, which is the actual width of the cross section. In such a case, the Excel template will indicate using a red color that we have a problem here. Now if we fix this scenario, let's say we reduce the number of bars in the layer farthest from the neutral axis from 6 to 4, you can see that the color disappears. Next, we will do the same thing with AS minimum. This is the minimum area of steel reinforcement allowed by the ACI code. I'm going to collapse the ribbon here in order to be able to see all the cells. And I'm going to go here and tell him we're going to have a new rule. Use a formula to determine which cells to format. And here I'm going to specify my condition. I'm going to tell the Excel template if this cell here, which is J12, which represents AS minimum, is greater than the actual area of steel reinforcement that we have in our Excel template, which is here. We've already calculated it as an output parameter. So if AS minimum is greater than the actual area of steel in our problem, then I want the Excel template to show a red color again. Now if AS minimum is smaller than the actual area of steel, you will have a red color here indicating a problem. Next, I want the Excel template to show two different colors regarding the ductility parameter C over dt. When the C over dt value for the section that we are studying is actually smaller than the upper limit according to the ACI code, the section is in the tension controlled zone and the Excel template should show a green color. Otherwise, the Excel template should show a red color. Now, I know that C over dt could place us in the tension, transition, or compression controlled, but you should remember that the ACI code specifies that the section is acceptable only when it is in the tension controlled zone. So let's go ahead and select this cell here, C over dt, go to Home, Conditional Formatting. Instead of going to a new rule here, you can actually hit the Manage Rules and you will have this table here. If you click on this worksheet, then you can see all the conditional formatting conditions that you have specified so far. You can click on any one of them and edit, delete, or even you can add a new rule from here. But I like to take it one by one, so I'm going to go here and click on the new rule, use formula, And again, I'm gonna specify my condition as if this value here is actually smaller than this value here, then the section is tension controlled and the Excel template should show a green color. Okay, and we're done. This is a condition independent from the one to be inserted next. Another one here regarding the same cells, but this time I'm gonna say in my condition that if this cell here, if the value stored in this cell here is actually greater than this value here, then Excel should show an alarming color. You can change whatever color you want. Let's say we're going to choose this color. It doesn't have to be red. You can put different colors. It's a matter of taste, and you can use whatever colors that you find suitable. So now these two should be ready. Now you can see that since this value is smaller than the upper limit, the section is tension controlled. Let's try to put more reinforcement here, say 22 and 22. You can see that once the section is out of the tension controlled zone, the Excel template clearly indicates that we have a problem here, which will help the user understand why the section has failed and the nominal and design strength have been blocked. Next, we will do the same thing in terms of ductility, but this time with the epsilon t parameter. So I'm going to go here and say if the J19 parameter, which is epsilon t, is actually bigger than the upper limit. Remember when we discussed how C over dt and epsilon t increase in different opposite directions, so you need to pay attention to that here. If epsilon t of the section that we are studying is actually larger than the upper limit for epsilon t specified by the ACI code, then the section is tension controlled. Otherwise, the section fails, and here I want the Excel template to show a green color for a tension controlled section and a red color otherwise. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to Home. First, you need to click on the cell that you want to have the colors shown in it. So I'm going to click on this one here, and I'm going to go to Conditional Formatting, New Rule, use formula, and then state your condition. If epsilon t is larger than the upper limit here, then the Excel template should show a green color. Otherwise, the same cell here with another condition. If epsilon t is smaller than the upper limit here, then the Excel template should show an alarming color. Now, I have told you this before, you don't really need to use both of these ductility parameters at the same time. You don't really need to calculate C over dt and epsilon t to prove whether the section is tension controlled or not. But I am showing them here together so that you can see that they eventually lead to the same result. But you only need one of them to prove that the section is tension controlled or not. I'm going to need some more time to explain the conditional formatting statements for the rest of the output parameters. So in order not to make this session too long, I'm going to call it a day for this session, and hopefully I will see you again in the sessions to come. Best wishes.